but I don't know the words. And I look up, there's an overhead. Well, this is cool. So I figured when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So I started singing along with them. That was my undoing.
Welcome to You Belong, the podcast where stories come to life, hosted by Pastor Nate. In each episode, we'll learn that every name has a story, and every story matters to God. So let's journey together and discover the stories that unite us all. This is You Belong.
All right, I've got my friends with me, Janie and Jim Bonds. So glad you're with us, and to remind us how every name has a story and every story matters to God. So why don't you tell us where you came from, where did you go, and who wants to start?
I'll start. I didn't go far. I grew up upriver, up southwest, and I moved to the big city of Miramichi. So
The fourth largest city in all New
the fourth
Brunswick.
largest city of New Brunswick is right. So so I've grown up here all my life.
What about you, good sir?
So where did you grow up?
I don't think I ever did grow up, but anyway, that's all right. Montreal, Quebec.
Montreal, Quebec. Are you francophone?
No. I never learned the language. Not until third grade they started to teach me, and then my parents decided it'd be better to move to New York, so that's where we went.
Wait, you grew up in New York?
Yeah, I spent 9 years there. Yeah.
Oh, went
to high school there.
Where in New York did you grow up?
Long Island, New York, out in the suburbs.
That's why I love this podcast.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's fun.
Yeah.
It was nice. I went to John F. Kennedy High School out there. And,
Okay.
it was the first John F. Kennedy High School after his assassination.
Okay.
And it was interesting. That's where I graduated, 1968. And then, I know.
1968.
I was young.
Oh my goodness.
And,
So when did you get up? When did you come out this way?
And then he went to Toronto after that, right?
no, I did not.
Oh,
No.
sorry.
You're rushing it. In 1968, I got a draft card telling me that
Vietnam.
they were going to take me into the Army, and I had 6 months to make an appeal before the board to say why I shouldn't be drafted. And at that point, I consulted my father, and he said, I would suggest you go back to Canada, because I never became an American citizen. Okay. I was just a resident. And he said if he was in my shoes, he would move back to Canada. So I did. They sent me a letter telling me, fine, move back to Montreal, but make sure you send us your address where you're living. A year after that, my mother gets a knock at the door in Plainview, Long Island, with the FBI, came to her door to say, we are closing your son's file. And she said, his file? What are you talking about? Well, people under your son's condition, like when he leaves the country like that, we keep a file open on them for a year to make sure they actually left. And we occasionally do spot checks with neighbors and all the rest to see if they've seen you around.
Oh man!
So,
are you still under like?
No.
Case closed.
I'm okay now. At one point, I did try to go back into the States, and they wouldn't let me in because I'd left. So because it was still the draft and all that. But anyway, but I came back to Montreal, stayed there for a year. Couldn't find work because I didn't speak the language, didn't speak French. Got a job at the Royal Bank, and they sent me to Woodstock, New Brunswick to work here at the Royal Bank. So I spent about 6 months with them. Didn't quite cut it as a bank person, so I ended up getting a job building a bridge across the Meduxaqueg River.
A little different.
Steel construction.
Okay.
Until I broke my ribs falling through the bridge.
This guy's got a story. What?
So that's that wasn't
You
his...
fell through. You fell through a bridge.
I fell through the bridge, yeah, and I was lucky I didn't go down into the river. I just fell through the top of the bridge and landed on my ribs and broke them. So after about 3 months of that, I ended up working on a bridge for a bakery. I can't remember the name of the bakery now.
Carnes, wasn't it?
Carnes Bakery in Woodstock.
Yeah.
And we just found out about 2 years ago. We went back there camping. It just closed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
I was part and parcel
yeah.
of making that building last for that long anyway.
I guess so.
And from there, I decided to move back to Toronto. Not back to, but I decided to go to Toronto from there.
Okay.
Because I didn't speak French, so Quebec was out of the question. So I went to Toronto, spent 15 years in Toronto. Okay. And that was 40 years ago when I came here.
Janice, what's your favorite childhood memory? If you could rate
My
that, what's your
favorite
one?
childhood? Well, we did a lot of family time, and we did a lot of games, family games, and things like that. When I was really young, my dad had horses, and we used to go to feed the horses. That was kind of a highlight.
What did you feed them?
Oh, I just stayed in the car.
We used to feed them. I didn't actually do it.
I didn't actually do it. I was scared of it. It was big. I was little at the time.
They're workhorses?
Yeah, there were workhorses. Okay. Yeah.
Like Clydesdales, is that what they're called?
I don't know what kind. I don't know. I was young. But then I remember him getting a timberjack, and it made things so much easier for him because he always worked in the woods and was a logger. And yeah. So, but growing up, we played outside and did kid stuff.
How many siblings do you have?
I had an older sister who's passed away and an older brother. I had 2 older brothers. I have one left, Terry, and yeah. But yeah, my oldest sister was 10 years older than me, and she moved to Ontario when my oldest daughter was just a baby. So, but we were very close, and yeah.
Okay, what's your kids' names?
My kids' names are different. Well, 2 of them are. Vashti is my oldest, and then Crystal, and I have a son, Joshua.
Yeah, Crystal.
Crystal's kind of in there in the middle, right?
Yeah. So where does those stem from?
So I was probably about 12 or 13 when I read the Queen of Esther, the Queen before Esther was Vashti.
Yeah.
And I said at the time, if I ever have a girl, that's going to be her name.
Have you ever met another Vashti?
No.
No, that's a cool name.
We have, I haven't, but we've heard of some. My dad was a big fan of Price is Right. And one day he called me and he said, "You'll never believe it." They said, "Come on down, Vashti."
That's so fun.
Yeah, so it's not a very common name, but.
What was school like for you? Like you were over in JFK. What was school like for you? Did you go NSER? Is that
I went to
school?
NSER, yeah. We had a little elementary school about 3 doors from our house for my first 4 years. I'm aging myself.
Not as much as Jim over there.
Yeah, not as much as him. And then we went down to Sunny Corner. We were in the portables and then into it was junior high and senior high together at the time. Okay. So
Junior high, senior high, very good. Like growing up, the Miramichi is good?
Yes. And I just couldn't imagine being anywhere else, really. Yeah, I do love the Miramichi.
Well, how did you guys meet?
We met
online.
No, we didn't meet
no.
online. Actually,
Mingle.com.
no, it definitely wasn't. I had some friends over one night to play games, and a friend of ours brought him over to the house to play games. We had him so psyched because we were playing Chicken Foot.
Yeah, I didn't know what Chicken Foot was. And when I asked my friend, I said, "What's this Chicken Foot you're talking about?" She said, "Oh, you're going to love it." She says, "Because if you lose, you have to put on these big plastic feet like a chicken and walk around the room clucking." And I thought, "What? I'm not interested."
It wasn't. It was dominoes. It's just a game of play with dominoes.
Yeah. So anyway, when I got there, I was really relieved to find out this was just a bunch of nonsense.
I feel like that would stress you out.
I'm not a games person to begin with. I do not like games that much. I'm just not interested.
It was fun.
But I thought I'd take it on myself. When I arrived at Jan's house, it was a very interesting experience for me.
Okay.
Because there were all these people there, and when she walked in the room,
here we go.
I'm serious. I mean, I had never had this experience in my life, but all I could see was her face, and I was dumbstruck. I mean, I couldn't understand what it was, but I couldn't get my eyes off this woman's face, and I was just like, she's just gorgeous. Like, she's so beautiful.
Okay, we can change the subject. What's the next question there? What's the next question there, Nate? Please.
Moving on. What happened from that point forward? I just went.
Now you're curious.
I'm curious. And what was Jan's reaction? Probably, who's this goof?
No.
She didn't know anything at the time.
He's running from the FBI.
I didn't know any of that
at the time. And we just gradually started talking and dating and stuff like that. And we'd go bowling together or go to a movie or something like that with the kids, So I kept it real civilized. But anyway.
You guys met, started dating and all that stuff. What did it look like getting married? Like, what did you guys do? Did you guys go on honeymoon? Did you guys do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we did. It was a different honeymoon.
Yeah, kind of different.
We went to Montreal first and
see my brother and
visited his brother and his wife, and then we went to Rochester. And I met his sister and her family. And then we went down to Lancaster.
No, we went to Niagara Falls. Don't forget that.
For the day, yes, that's right.
We had to do the Niagara Falls thing.
Yes, we did go to Niagara Falls for a day, and then came back to to Rochester, and then we went to Lancaster for a few days to see his mom.
Lancaster, PA.
Yeah, she was in a home down there. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, and then we made the same tour on the way back and stayed on the way back. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's been like your biggest highlight together? Because you guys haven't been long together. How long have you guys been together
It'll
for
be
now?
25 years
That's
in
exciting.
May.
Yep.
Yeah.
25 years. Wow.
It's not old yet.
No.
It's not long. 25. That's
Yeah.
exciting though.
It is. So one of our favorite things is every summer, now this will be 5 years, that we go to St. Andrews for a week and get a cottage and just
Awesome.
stay.
Just
and
you two? Or
just the two of us,
That's so
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And just build on that and
Just to get away for a week.
stay
and
at the
just
beach
relax.
and just relax. Yeah.
Relax, yeah.
So that's our fun time.
Very cool. What's been your hardest time?
Oh.
Let's get right to it.
I guess jobs really has been the
Well,
hardest.
it's not really hard. It's just
Like swapping
It's tiring.
different jobs
Yeah.
because like when for him the photography and then when everybody started getting into digital, so he had to kind of reinvent.
reinvent
And you've
myself.
done that. You've done a
Oh,
great
yes.
job. Some
Had
people
to.
don't. Some people don't reinvent. They
Wow.
have to though.
It was either that or starve because nobody was coming to me for pictures.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
high schools used to send me 300 graduates a year,
Okay.
and that went down as soon as digital photography happened. That went down to like maybe a dozen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but you don't
Yeah.
survive on a dozen
No.
grads.
No.
You know, because really grads is the beginning of your introduction to the community. I mean, that's where next thing you have is wedding anniversaries.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
family pictures and all the rest of it from the graduates. But if you're not getting into the family with a graduate, you know, who's going to come try you out?
Yeah. Yeah. So you had to
Yeah.
reinvent yourself a bit. And
Yeah.
you were doing stuff before you were
I
here at the
can-
church.
yes, I
guess I
did.
never even told anyone here that what
I
exactly what you
really,
should
I
told
really
your
want to
role
put a
is here.
plug in here for God.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, sitting in the studio trying to figure out how I'm going to pay the rent, pay the insurance, and all this stuff. And I'm asking God, what am I going to do? And he starts asking me questions like, what were you doing in 1971? And I thought, 1971? What's that? I was in Toronto. What were you doing? And I said, well, I went to Ryerson for 6 months in the evening and took a class in graphic design and layout. I thought, what's the big deal with that? Well, he was bringing me back to the fact that over the years in my studio, I'd had lots of people coming to me with old photographs that they wanted restored. Most of them were old photographs of the Miramichi, all right, and torn, ripped, whatever, and they wanted me to fix them up. Invariably, I'd say, do you mind if I keep a copy of this? No, fine, keep a copy, and so on. So at the point, God was talking to me about this graphic design thing. He said, you know all those pictures you've been collecting? Like I had about 300-400 pictures by this time. He said, why don't you make placemats for the goodie shop? I thought, placemats for the goodie shop? He said, yeah, take a couple of those old pictures, put them in the middle, and sell advertising around the outside of the placemats. That's an idea. I don't know how long it'll last, but we'll try it out. So I tried it out with the goodie shop, and hey, they worked. Next thing I know, I've got 9 restaurants using my placemats,
So cool.
you know, because it worked,
Yeah.
and they were
Yeah.
all in black and white. But I mean, I mean, really, it wasn't my idea. Like he came to me with this brainstorm about.
Yeah.
I never thought to use the photographs for that,
Oh, that's cool.
but it worked.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, I love how those kind of things will pop up, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
You take
yeah.
past experience and
amazing
you know,
ideas.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, what were you doing during this time? Like when you're
So I worked, I guess my first full time, I worked house cleaning and that when my kids were little and I was involved in the school and things. My first full-time job was at the Rod in the front desk. And then I went with Acon and had almost 5 years there. And then it's like a 5-year track. So
oh no,
No.
where are we at now at the church?
No, I love my job here. And so then when the mill closed, I went to Stats Canada, and it was funny how I used to do some secret shopping, and there was an ad for, and I thought when I read the ad, it seemed like secret shopping. So I applied for it, and I got this email back saying, would you come in for an interview? And I thought, well, that's the first time I've ever had to interview for a job like this. So I went into this interview, and there was probably 8 or 10 of us there, and so they asked us all these questions, and fine. And then I got a call, can you come back for a second interview? And I thought, like, I know how to do secret shopping, and
I love
I'm
shopping.
still at secret shopping in my brain.
Yeah.
And so I went back, and there was 3 of us, and I said to one of the other ones, she said something that kind of threw me off, something about government job, and I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, this is for Stats Canada.
Oh.
And nowhere on it did it say Statistics Canada. So I thought, okay. So I went into it, and when I had the interview, she said, well, I have to interview the others, but I know you got the job. So And I said, well, I'm not French. And she said, you don't need to be in Miramichi.
No.
So I worked with them for 10 years.
10 years you did
10
that?
years.
Oh, wow.
And then, like, depending on government changes and things, you'd have lots of surveys, and then there'd be lulls that you wouldn't have as many surveys. And so I thought, well, if I could get another part-time job, I could be able to do both. So I applied to Canada Post as part-time, just relief. And I was there a couple months, and a full-time Canada Post opened up. And so I applied. I talked to my boss. He said, you may as well apply for any job you can. And so I did, and I got the full-time. So for a year, I was working full-time. It was a bad year.
Yeah.
I was working full-time Canada Post and almost full-time, probably 25 hours a
Oh,
week,
wow.
doing stats in the evening. And
You never saw Jim ever.
hardly ever then.
Nope.
It was like I come home, change my clothes, and go to work. And then after a year, I gave it up, and I did the Canada Post. And then when Pastor Kevin came to me about the job here, and it was really written for me, and I just felt really good about it. And so some people thought I was crazy to leave a government job to go into ministry.
'Cause
And
I don't think I knew you a whole lot
No,
before you came
no.
on staff. I remember you helped
Yeah.
me wrap boxes
Yes,
for Christmas. One of
yeah,
these big
yeah,
boxes.
yeah.
She's a great rapper. This Janet Bond girl. Let's get her on staff.
yeah, but it's a great decision. It was a great decision.
Yeah, so you left Canada Post. Were you
So
a
I left-
courier there? Was that what you were doing?
an RSMC it's called, so it's rural. And
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I
Yeah,
offended you.
yeah,
Sorry.
no,
Courier.
doing the rural delivery. Yeah.
You jumped in on the church. So what was your, because you're having her leave a government job now. What's your thought process, Jim, on this time?
What's my what?
Your thought process as
When I
she's
left.
deciding to go from Canada
you
Post
left.
to the
When I
church?
left government job.
What were you thinking?
I was concerned because the one thing I've seen with this lady is over the last 25 years, it doesn't matter what job she takes. I have never in my life seen anybody that can learn as fast as she does. She walks into a job, no clue about any of it. And I'm talking within a couple of weeks, and she's got it down. She's really sharp. She learns really fast.
Yeah.
She's a credit to anybody she works for. She really is.
Wow. I paid him.
Did you? Okay.
Or did you pay him to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
So that's good. And so that was, how many years ago was that when you came onto the church?
actually, on the 1st of February, it'll be 3 years.
3
Is it
years.
3
yeah,
years?
3 years on the 1st is the day I signed my contract. Yeah.
What did we do
Yeah.
before you? Because that'll be 6 years in April for me.
Yeah.
So man, that's crazy. So what's your biggest highlight in ministry for both you guys? Because you're involved doing some stuff here. So
Yeah.
what's your highlight for you right now?
So now that my job position has changed into the care ministry, or added into the care ministry, that is my highlight. I love that. I love just going and seeing people and
You're good at it. That's probably what
being
you're
able-
good at
yeah,
too. Right?
I do. I just
Fits perfectly.
But I do I enjoy who I work with. I enjoy. Mandy's and I did a dinner for the Rotary this Christmas, and we worked together well and doing the decorating, and it was fun. And so there's aspects of it that's been great, and there's been some learning aspects of it too, but we all need those to grow. So it's been good. Yeah.
What about you, Jim? What do you like to do around here, man? You're always around doing something. He's greeting, he's hanging out, being Janice's lackey.
The only contribution I make to the church, I guess, really, I try to be her backup whenever she needs something. I'm just there to help her with what she's doing.
You throw some ads in there for us? Not the goodie shop. Put some ads in there for us.
The ads.
On the
Yeah,
mats.
he does the ads.
But on the mats, we have a thing called Food for Thought, and that was started when Pastor Kevin was here.
Yeah, very cool.
And I still have a whole catalog of all his food for thoughts, and I keep putting them on the mats.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Because I've talked to numerous people that say, I just love to read that food for
it's
thought.
so good.
Yeah.
So I think, hey, that's cool,
Yeah.
So it works. But that's pretty much all
Anytime
I
you can get that little thought into someone's head that their day is better, can be better,
Yeah. That's cool. I love, you guys both being part of the church is so great. I know from Pastor Jeff's perspective, mine perspective, it's
Yeah.
great having you in the role you're in, because with a church with so many people, it's nice knowing we
Yeah.
have a dedicated person who's just, they're like the hub for the care ministry
Yeah.
and stuff. We've got a lot of people, a lot of different things happening, so it's
Yeah.
nice having that, and you let us know when
Yeah.
people are in need to meet with, and it's been exciting for us to have, because we we hear the stats in churches when you need to have someone, overseeing that stuff. We need to have people
Yeah.
doing that. So
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
good. Where do you see yourselves being in the next 5 years?
I don't see myself retired. I know probably I could retire now, at my age, but I just don't see that in the next.
Because you're doing some studies now too, aren't you?
I
You're
am.
school,
I'm back to university.
There
Who would
you
have
go.
thought?
Yeah.
I do a class on Tuesdays for Macadia
Yeah.
Divinity.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So, and I didn't ever think I'd be doing that either. But it's exciting to always learn and to better yourself and to take that next step of where God wants you. So yeah.
What you, Jim? Where you see yourself?
I'm pretty much.
You're just hanging out, man. You're just enjoying. You're just here for the
Well, no,
ride.
I mean,
man.
it's interesting because I do depend an awful lot on what God leads me to do, because when I think back over the years and the number of things, the jobs and the opportunities that I've been presented with, I can only say it had to be God. So I'm always listening to him, and he's now showing me something new, which I won't talk about now, but
Do it now.
no.
Reveal it.
He's showing me something now, and I got so excited this morning
Okay.
in my time with him. Like, I just couldn't believe he was showing me something, and the more I thought about it, I thought, I can do this. I can do this. Now, I don't know if the business I'm running now is running 17 years. When I started it, I thought maybe a couple of years might last. And it's, like I say, lasted 17 years, which even my printer shakes his head and says, I don't know what you're doing, but he says, just keep doing it, because I've never seen anybody do placemats for that long. So anyway, but it's, the thought always occurs to me, is there going to be a point where this is going to fade out and it's just not going to be viable? And I've often thought, well, if that happens, what am I supposed to do? And those thoughts have been coming to me more and more. And then this morning he puts this new thought in my head, and it's just an acorn of an idea, but I can see how it could be a replacement. And I have to think of my age, because I'm not probably going to get any more mobile than I am now as I get older. So I have to think of other sources of income, because I'm not going to stop working. I mean, I don't see retiring as being someplace where you put your feet up and just do nothing and watch TV. Sorry, I got to have a reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
I've talked to too many retired people. That sounds like they're doing more work.
Yes,
they were,
yeah,
when they were
exactly.
retired, like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't
They
want
are.
to retire.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's fun. It's a challenge. I enjoy the work. I enjoy what I do. So the gifting that God has gifted me in terms of graphics and photography and all the rest of it, why wouldn't I keep using it? I use it for His glory. I mean, that's what it's all about. He gave me a gift, a really wonderful gift, and I got to thank Him for it, because without it, I have nothing.
That's true.
What is one thing you would love to have people know about you, your walk with God, and where He's taking you?
That no matter what comes in your life, He's there.
Yeah.
Because we've all gone through stuff. And I have dear friends right now that are going through horrendous stuff. But to know that you can have peace, that He's there with you. That no matter what it is, right?
That's
that,
right.
in those struggles and when you don't know why, you can still know that He's there.
That's powerful. Would you second that, Jim? Would you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, before I didn't know Him until 1988. That's when I gave my heart to the Lord. And prior to that, I'd never had God in my life. Not that I was aware of. I wasn't interested. Anybody talked to me about Jesus or the Bible and that, and it was just like, not interested. And that whole thing came around really in a strange way, because I had a photo studio. And one day I got this idea that instead of just doing photography, why don't I do videography? So I thought, well, that's kind of neat. So I went to a company in Halifax, Instructor Aids, and bought all kinds of camera or video equipment. But there was one piece of equipment that I didn't have enough money for. And it was kind of an integral part of the production that I needed. And the guy that was selling it to me said, there's a church up there, way up in Littleton, New Brunswick. They have a program called Praise Celebration on Fundy Cable. And the people there are complaining about the editing. It's terrible. Why don't you get a contract with them to edit their videotape? And I thought, oh, great. I was not interested in going to church.
Nowhere near church.
And a Pentecost church at that? I mean, no, not interested. Anyway, greed came into it, and I decided this sounds like a good idea. So I went and talked to them, and they agreed. They paid me a year's income for doing their edit. And I thought to myself at the time, well, how long could it take to edit a videotape? Well, maybe an hour, a week. I can stand an hour of this stuff for a week. So little did I realize there's no editing videotape like that for an hour, because they give you 2 hours of tape and you got to whittle it down to an hour. Like, I don't know anything about church. How am I going to edit this down? What do I take out? So I talked to the church about it. Oh, no problem. We'll have somebody come down and see you once a week, and they'll tell you what to take out. Who they said? The pastor. Oh,
there you go.
I'm thinking, I'm done. He's going to come.
I'm going to burn right beside this guy.
He's going to come down here and tell me, you got to get saved. And all. He never did. John Raymer came down, and he was just a really nice guy. I really enjoyed seeing him every Thursday night. He'd come down, and we'd spend 2 or 3 hours going over the tape, discussing everything under the sun, including my business and so on. And the thing that really impressed me about this guy, even though I wasn't a church person or believe in prayer and all this stuff, he'd want to pray for my business. And I thought, whatever turns your crank, go ahead and do it. So, but I was impressed with the guy. Like, he thought, well, he cared enough that he wanted to pray for my business. And before he'd leave every night, he'd want to pray for the business, which I was impressed with. Anyway, one day he comes in and he says, we're going to leave, and they're going to be going to PEI to minister to a church there that needed a pastor. Of course, I was a little bit concerned because I needed him to come and help me vet it. Well, we'll get somebody else to come down. When he's leaving that night, he said, by the way, I'd like you to come to my last service. I thought, this is not my cup of tea at all. I'm not into going to a Pentecost church. I've seen the way these guys were in the church service. The camera would pan the congregation. And it always impressed me because during praise and worship, nobody had a hymnal. But they all knew the words of the songs. And I thought, this is crazy. These people are smart. How do they remember all these words? I had gotten to the point where I kind of enjoyed the music. It was a nice hotel. I'm a music person. I like music. But anyway, I get into the church that night. We finally arrive late, park in the front, right at the front door. Their music is so loud, you could be out in the middle of the street and hear their music. I mean, it is so loud.
Yeah.
So we walk in the front door. There's nobody in the lobby. The lead usher comes out, and he's a big fellow. I mean, he's really big. And as soon as I looked at him, I thought, well, if he wants to hug me, I guess I'm not going to fuck him and just leave him alone.
Again.
So he comes out, he said, where would you like to sit? And I said, as close to the back as possible, thinking if I have to get out of here, I could just scoot out the door. So he takes me around, sits me right beside the video booth where all the video gear is and everything else. If I'm not interested in what's going on up front, I can at least watch these guys. Well, I get in there. Everybody's standing, of course. They're doing praise and worship. And for the first time, I'm thinking to myself, what's this the music? I know the music. I've heard it. But I don't know the words. And I look up, oh, there's an overhead. Well, this is cool. So I figured when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So I started singing along with them. That was my undoing. Because it was like God had ordained this whole thing and set me up beautifully, because as soon as I started singing, it wasn't 10 minutes into the thing, and I'm standing there feeling like somebody dumped a bucket of warm honey over the top of my head, right down to the tip of my toes. And I think I'm losing my mind, and I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. And I can feel him saying, no, your running days are over, son. You're mine. And that was it. That was I was done. I was cooked.
That's powerful. Yeah. I love hearing those stories because you get, when you hear sort of like that, you can start zooming out, right? Because you can see all those small steps that brought you to that, right? Like if you didn't have a passion for editing or pictures, you never would have been suggested by your friend to go work for this church, for have a year-long contract, and to sit there all the time to eventually be. If that pastor didn't get invited out to go to another church, he wouldn't have had a closing one. He would have had a reason to invite you. And then you get there and you get say, it's like, I love it. I love hearing those stories.
The analogy I use all the time is I feel like probably the biggest puck on the ice, and I've been stick-handled all the way down the ice, and then finally shot into the goal net. It's just all the little twists and turns that happened along the way, and you kind of go, God, you are amazing. Like, how do you orchestrate all this stuff? I love that. So when you get into a hard time now, you kind of reflect back on those things and say, hey, look what he did before. You rehearse your victories, and you look at the stuff that he's already done in your life, and say, hey, why am I stressing? He knows what he's doing. It's amazing, just amazing.
That's such a great reminder for anyone watching or listening, right? And to just take a step back and just see that God's orchestrating the whole thing. So, well, guys, thanks so much for coming and reminding us of how when you zoom out of your life story, you can see how God's inner workings all happen. I loved hearing those stories, and for reminding us that every name has a story and every story matters to God.